For a decade, this logo meant one thing. Films nobody else would make. Moonlight, The Witch, Hereditary. Directors nobody had heard of. Stories that trusted you to figure them out. And then it happened. The best thing that ever happened to A24. Winning an Oscar.
There's a mistake. Moonlight, Best Picture.
But the worst thing that ever happened to A24 was also winning that Oscar. Now, you're probably saying, what do you mean? A24 is still making great movies. Marty Supreme, The Smashing Machine. They're literally changing cinema. And don't get me wrong, I get your point. But that's not what I mean. And in my opinion, the A24 we knew is already gone. But to make you understand what I mean, we need to go back to the beginning. 3 guys who worked in film finance and distribution decide to start a company. No movies, no stars, no track record. Their name comes from the Italian motorway one of them was driving on when he had the idea. The A24 motorway. That's the whole story. Their first real bet, Spring Breakers.
Look at my shit. Look at my shit. Look at my shit. Look at my shit.
Harmony Korine, Selena Gomez, and Vanessa Hudgens with guns and bikinis on a Florida beach doing cocaine. $5 million budget, and to win the distribution rights, A24 gave the producer a gun-shaped bong with the Spring Breakers logo engraved on it. That tells you everything about what A24 was. They didn't just distribute movies, they understood them. They spoke the same language as the filmmakers, and then what followed was something Hollywood hadn't seen in years. Moonlight, $4 million budget, Best Picture Oscar. First film with an all-black cast and LGBTQ themes to ever win that award. It opened in 4 theaters. 4. A24 built the audience one city at a time. The Witch, Robert Eggers' first feature film ever. Hereditary, Ari Aster's first feature film ever. Lady Bird, Greta Gerwig's directorial debut. They didn't discover stars, they created them. And not only did they create directors, they did it with actors too. Florence Pugh, Paul Mescal. People can't really tell what they did before Midsummer or After Sun. And audiences responded, not just with tickets, with devotion. Over 60% of A24 moviegoers said they chose a film specifically because of the logo. That's not a studio, that's a religion, a cult. And for 8 years, they deserved it. But something interesting happened along the way. People stopped saying, "Have you seen the new Ari Aster film?" They started saying, "I'm going to watch the new A24 movie." The director didn't matter anymore. The logo did. A24 stopped being a distributor. It became a brand. And that's exactly when things started to get complicated. In 2022, a Manhattan equity firm called Stripes pays $225 million for less than 10% of A24. Less than 10%. That values A24 at $2.5 billion. The company that made Good Time for $2 million is now worth $2.5 billion. By 2024, $3.5 billion. And here's what that number means in practice. A company worth $3.5 billion cannot survive on $4 million movies. The math doesn't work. The investors won't allow it. A clock started ticking the moment that check cleared. And honestly, I think A24 knew that, but didn't really care. So Stripes signed that check in March 2022. Beau is Afraid came out exactly 1 year later, $35 million budget, $12 million at the box office. That's a $23 million loss on a single film. And look, it's a fascinating movie, completely uncompromising. Exactly the kind of film A24 was built to make, but it nearly broke them. Now here's what makes this insane. The same Ari Aster made Hereditary for $10 million, Midsummer for $9 million. The films were bigger now, the budgets were bigger, and the losses were bigger. A top Hollywood agent told The Wrap, "The auteur business is a lousy, high-risk business that does not attract potential buyers." So, what do you do when the films you believe in keep losing money, and you have investors expecting returns on a $3.5 billion valuation? You make a decision, and in October 2023, A24 made theirs. The Wrap publishes a report. A24's acquisition executive has been making the rounds at Hollywood talent agencies. He's not looking for the next Hereditary. He's looking for action and big IP projects. And the studio, the same source confirmed, is actively de-emphasizing the traditional character and auteur-driven dramas. That is a24 officially announcing that they are no longer a24. They even went after the Halloween franchise. They lost that bid. They ended up producing a Friday the 13th series. The company that made The Witch is producing Friday the 13th. But let me show you something more specific, because the clearest picture of what changed is one director, Josh Safdie. Gritty, chaotic, deeply personal New York City films. Then he came to A24 in 2017. Good Time. Robert Pattinson as a small-time criminal racing through New York's underworld. Budget, $2 million. Then 2019, Uncut Gems. Adam Sandler as a jeweler with a gambling addiction. Budget, $19 million. And here's something almost nobody mentions. A24 was so nervous about this film that they sold the international rights to Netflix before it even opened, before anyone had seen it, just to cover the risk, believing in something. Not sure it would work, but betting on it anyway. And last, 2025, Marty Supreme, same director, Timothée Chalamet. Budget, $70 million. $70 million in 8 years. That's not growth, that's a different company. And here's the thing, Marty Supreme is a good film, a24's biggest hit ever, so you could say they're still making great movies, just bigger ones. That's exactly the argument, and it's wrong, because the old A24 didn't bet on directors who were already famous. They didn't bet on actors who guaranteed ticket sales. They bet on impossible ideas from people nobody had heard of. Now, they're hiring stars that already exist, and spending $70 million to make sure you show up. There's a difference between discovering something and buying something that already has value. That's the line A24 crossed. A24 became an identity, not a film studio. An identity, the merch, the letterboxed aesthetic, the TikTok edits. Seeing an A24 film stopped being about the film and started being about the kind of person you are. Someone described it in a Substack article as a movie studio wrapped in a streetwear brand inside a Pinterest mood board. And the problem with being a lifestyle brand is that you start making decisions for the lifestyle, not for the films. Marty Supreme wasn't marketed to people who loved Good Time. It was marketed to Timothée Chalamet fans.
When I think Good Time, which obviously came out after, Robert Pattinson, shwat!
Those are two completely different audiences. A24 chose the bigger one, but here's the part that actually matters, because none of this would be a problem if the films that needed A24 most were still getting made. They're not. For example, in 2024, A24 releases a film called Sing Sing. Coleman Domingo plays a man who finds redemption through theater while serving time in prison, Oscar nominated. One of the most acclaimed performances of the year. Almost nobody saw it in theaters, because A24 barely distributed it. Meanwhile, Death of a Unicorn and Y2K got massive marketing campaigns. They're not just making different films, they're choosing which films deserve an audience, and the films that actually need them, the quiet, specific, irreplaceable ones, are being left behind.